In the past couple of months, a lot of information has leaked from the new Earth Avatar TV series in development by Avatar Studios. Of course, none of these leaks are actually 100% confirmed to be true, but multiple sources have reported on the same information, so it's kind of looking more and more likely that this will happen. And honestly, it's kind of looking like a mixed bag, so let's get into it. So the first major new change in this series is a new type of world that was created. An unknown cataclysmic event occurred while Korra was still the Avatar, and she was forced to resolve this threat, which consequently reshaped the entire world. So the four nations no longer exist. There are now 7 new locations called Havens. This is a pretty massive change. Something that is so iconic to the world of Avatar was the distinct four nations with their own unique cultures and locations. And the four nations is really something that we've seen in the shows, comics, and books now for the past 20 years, ever since The Last Airbender was first released in 2005. So people are very connected to this version of the world of Avatar, which is now being massively changed. Also, it is being reported that the world is somewhat futuristic or even kind of cyberpunk-esque. Apparently, in one of the leaked animatics, it shows people traveling on a type of hoverboard, although it could actually just be people airbending, we aren't totally sure. With that being said, that is another level of change happening that kind of draws Avatar more towards sci-fi and not so much fantasy. Of course, there's overlap between these two genres, but it still seems like a massive risk to draw it towards a more technological and futuristic elements into the show, while still incorporating the original kind of ideas and themes that made it so popular in the first place. The creators of Avatar are no strangers to this magnitude of change, though. The Legend of Korra also made a pretty big change by having it being set in a 1920s type of world. There are definitely critiques that can be made about that decision, but I think in general it worked well for the characters and the story that they were telling there. This is yet another massive change that is going to be happening that the fans will just have to adapt to. There is still so much we don't know about this new world, but it just seems like such a gamble right now with all these changes, and I'm not convinced that it will pay off, at least as of right now. Okay, so this is the big one now. So the next change is the one that is really turning people off from the idea of this show. So supposedly, the Earth Avatar after Korra will be a set of twins. More specifically, both individuals will be seen as the Avatar. This is something that is kind of unbelievable and just seems like a type of fan fiction, which is something a lot of people have already said online. If this is true, it'll be the first in franchise history, and quite possibly the boldest change they could make for this. The leak states that the twin avatars will be young girls who were separated at birth. Their names are Pavi and Nisha. Supposedly Nisha will have been raised by the White Lotus, being seen as the more powerful twin, kind of in a wealthy environment, and then Pavi will be raised on the streets in one of the 7 havens. Pavi will be an amputee with her left leg missing. Supposedly both will have the spirit of Rava in them, and both will be able to go into the Avatar state. And lastly, both twins will be accompanied by a cat-like companion, which is fun. So my initial thoughts on this idea, I genuinely dislike the premise of this. And that seems to be the popular consensus from people who've kind of heard these leaks. One of the main draws of Avatar is that it's always been this one individual who's born as the Avatar and continues that cycle, and only they can bend all 4 elements. Over the course of hundreds of years, it's been like this, and there's this rich history of past Avatars that is still yet to be fully explored. Now, in the most recent book, The Reckoning of Roku, we do learn that Avatar Roku had a twin brother, and that his brother died before Roku was declared as the Avatar. I thought this was kind of a fun idea that somewhat answered the question of the possibility of the Avatar being twins, but we kind of already know that the Avatar books are not fully integrated into the canon of the Avatar Studios' future movies and shows, so it's kind of weird where we kind of have to dismiss that even though we read it in the book. What I'm concerned about is that these characters might be too one-dimensional, just kind of depending on the route they go with the writing of those characters. If one is evil and one is a good avatar, we kind of already know the basis of that dynamic from their characters in the beginning, and it doesn't really leave much for the viewer to guess about. So it's rumored that Nisha is going to be more aggressive and arrogant, while Pavi is going to be more compassionate and helpful. I really hope that this isn't the direction they go, since we've already seen like a version of this in The Legend of Korra Season 2. We saw the fusion of Unalaq and Vatu, and they became a dark avatar and ended up fighting with Korra. Since we've already seen this, I don't think this is the version they're going to go with, and there's going to be more nuances with the scope of these two twin girls. The creators of Avatar, they do a good job of innovating and making these changes, and they rarely do the exact same idea twice, so that's somewhat comforting. I feel like when it comes to just the concept of twin avatars, it's still something I don't love, but I think it has to be a result of this brand new world that was reshaped by Korra. So maybe something like Rava was dying, and then the only solution was to split Rava into two separate spirits. Or maybe there was some event that was causing the spirit world and the physical world to merge together, and to try and prevent the world from ending, they had to create a new Rava to try and balance out the light and dark spirits. We really don't know, and there are way more questions than answers right now, so it's hard to say for sure. This is without a doubt going to be the most divisive change that they are supposedly making, and a lot of people online already dislike this idea, and I think, for very good reasons when it comes to the lore of the Avatar universe. The creators are going to have to do a really good job when it comes to the world building of that cataclysmic event that occurred with Korra, really in order to justify the creation of those two twin avatars. So that covers a lot of the information from the leaks regarding the twin avatars and the new world that was created, but when it comes to the actual plot of the show, we really don't know too much right now. Within the leaks, there was a brief description of the plot, and this stated that in this epic animated adventure series, two young sisters are gifted with fantastical abilities. To save the planet from chaotic energy storms, they must unravel the mystery of where they came from. So here's my kind of overall rough guess of what the plot could be. So I would guess that the show starts by showing the upbringing of the two twins. So it'll show Nisha being raised in this wealthy environment by the White Lotus, and then it'll show Pavi growing up on the streets. Then somehow they'll learn about the other's existence and seek out eventually find each other, and I'm sure they'll have some companions along the way. Then I'm sure there's going to be some conflict on who is the real Avatar and how exactly this is possible, and they're going to investigate exactly how and why this has happened. And then I would assume they would travel to at least some of the other 7 havens to explore this new world and try to learn more about these energy storms from that description. It's apparently reported that there will be 26 episodes, although there's no clarification on how that's distributed across seasons. I would be assuming that would be like 2 seasons here. For the plot, I would really want Korra to appear, either in flashbacks or with the twins connected with her past life, or both. Both would be great here. So she would be able to provide a lot of the context to everything we're seeing, and really serve as the only person who can guide and mentor these twins, especially since they're going to be very young. They're going to need a lot of guidance. It would feel really odd if Korra was completely absent from this series, so I actually think there's a pretty good chance that we're going to see her here. So that pretty much covers all of the leaked information so far. Again, nothing of this is 100% confirmed, and we're probably at least a year away from the show even premiering, so we're still far out. But it's looking more and more likely that these sources are legit, and that some of these ideas are actually going to be happening. I am pretty anxious about this new direction for the show. It's pretty much the most drastic and massive change they can make here, and they really need to do a good job to justify these new changes and provide some good storytelling and some good characters to really make this a success. I do think it's great that they continue to innovate and they're not just doing the same thing over and over and over, but it really is a gamble, and I just am anxious. So that's pretty much it. If you have a good comment, be sure to leave that, and thanks so much for watching.